Looks like mainstream media wanted to fire off many videos and reports claiming Kohberger's guilt. Maybe they should have reported what I'm reporting in this video.
Pavarotti.
Pavarotti?
Pavarotti.
He gives me chills.
Let's listen to Pavarotti.
Hello. Welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavarotti, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. Now, over the last couple of days, as I've been enjoying my holidays and my family time, had a chance, because I did a lot of driving, to watch a few videos. And it goes from Megyn Kelly to News Nation, Court TV. It's just a massive pile-on Bryan Kohberger with the most ludicrous BS stuff that you can possibly imagine. So then I see all these videos from everybody about the confidential informant. I even went as far as to try to start watching the drunk Turk, and I couldn't get past him pulling up court docs, and he's been covering the case for 2 years, and he can't even decipher the initials on the no contact orders. I'm like, come on, man. But anyway, here's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to start. This is video 1 of 2 today. I'm not holding back in either one of them. I'm going to make some people mad. And this one, I don't care. Because when they fire off all that, then the truth has to be put out there. And it's going to be put out there by Pavarotti no matter what. So we're going to do this first video, and I'm just going to go ahead and prove to you motive. Okay? Flat out prove it. And then in the second video, I'm going to flat out prove informant. And let me tell you this, folks. If you're one of those people that truly believe that the IgG is what led to Bryan Kohberger, and they pulled it from a 23andMe database, then guess what? Whether you know it or not, you're a guilter. Because if you truly believe that the IgG was done, I'm not even saying in a proper way, but it was done correctly, and they put it into a database and it identified Bryan Kohberger, you're flat out saying that that was Bryan Kohberger's DNA on the knife sheath. I mean, that's what you're saying. So we're going to talk about that in the next video, and I'm going to annihilate all of it. But in this video, I'm going to annihilate that motive BS that I seen from Megyn Kelly.
Would say it's true. Bryan Kohberger did overcome obesity, and he did overcome his heroin addiction. You know what he did not overcome? The severe night terrors and torture, self-torture that's been going through his brain since the time he was 16, where he said he feels like a piece of dead meat, where he said, when I hug my father, I feel nothing. This is a sociopath who is more than capable of these crimes, whose antisocial behaviors got to the point where they could no longer be ignored or not noticed by the students that were in the class for which he was a TA, by those above him who had been rooting for him, with whom he knew he had to curry good favor but couldn't maintain the ruse any longer. And ultimately, this came to a boil inside of him because of the vibrance of these girls, the beauty of these girls, the vitality of this foursome living a life he could never live. Who knows whether he met one of them in the vegan restaurant? Who knows whether he met them online or just stalked the Instagram page? We'll find out whether he did for sure in court.
Yeah, that's plausible, Megyn. Man, those just was jealous of those 4 individuals. He couldn't possibly have a life like them. Boy, I tell you what, that's digging in some motive right there. But then again, I don't know if you compared Kohberger's life to their life, was theirs really that much better? I mean, maybe the last couple of years were, but what about all the years prior to that? I mean, was it really something to be jealous of? Because what the real motive was for those crimes, I'm sure those youngsters went through a whole lot up until that point in their lives. Let's do it. You know, it's interesting. When this case first started, it was like mainstream media, who, make no mistake, have the ability to find out more things than you and I can find out on a whole lot faster. But it was like they wanted to hide all of the history that they had to have known about the families of the victims involved in this case. And just to give you an example, this is from an article where it's discussing Inside Edition's reporting shortly after the atrocity. And you can see it says, court records obtained by Inside Edition now show that Taylor, the chief of Kootenai Public Defender's Office, represented Maddie's stepmother on drugs charges. I can't even type right. As recently as June of 2022, Taylor also oversaw a case involving Mogan's father in 2020. Now, Mogan's father was sentenced to 90 days in prison after allegedly pleading guilty to charges in 2020, while her stepmother pleaded guilty to possession of an illegal substance, but it's unclear if she served any prison time. You see, this is the kind of reporting that mainstream media did on the families. That her father got 90 days in prison in 2020. Her stepmother had some illegal substance, but it's unclear if she had any prison time. They could have gone in and really exposed what this thing was about from day one, but they decided to put stuff like this out in breadcrumbs and hide it from everybody, because that is what mainstream media wants you to believe. They don't want you to know the truth. Well, I'm sorry, but I have to give you the truth because I'm done with this. Let's go ahead and report what that article should have reported, which is the truth from the very beginning. And you can see that Maddie's dad here in 2020, April to be exact, was arrested with possession of a controlled substance with intent to deliver. Count 1. Count 2, possession of a controlled substance with intent to deliver. Count 3, paraphernalia with intent to use. Now, he quickly pled guilty and was sentenced to 3 years in the Idaho Department of Corrections. However, unlike these other guilters out there try to suggest of other people, suggesting they're in some type of drug court, no, when they're in drug court, it tells you clearly in the court docs, just like the dad here was. He was sentenced to drug court on 9/16 of 2020. However, you'll notice that the very next day, on 9/17 of 2020, he was arrested again, this time for paraphernalia with intent to use and possession of Mary Jane. Now, what happens when you're on drug court and you get arrested again for drugs? Well, then you actually get revoked and you get sentenced, typically. Did that happen in his case? Or is he another one of these that magically never, ever gets sentenced? Well, let's see. Well, it's unclear if this was a separate probation than his drug court probation, or if they just eliminated his drug court probation of 3 years altogether and replaced it with this, because it's not very clear in his docs what really happened. But I do know that on November 12th, he was sentenced to unsupervised probation, ordered to obey all laws and notify them of a change of address for a period of 2 years. And it's really, really weird that you can see the end of his 2-year probation was 11/12 of 2022, the day before the atrocity on King Road. Very strange date there. Well, let's talk about anomalies in the system. because whenever I see an anomaly, it really piques my interest and garners my attention. Now, you're going to see on here, I have listed, you'll see at the top, it says party name, and then it lists the person under all of the charges. Well, these are just past charges for the father of one of the victims and the mother of one of the victims in this case. And you can see under party name, it lists their name on every single one. I have been through literally thousands of court docs at this point for different people. And unless it is a civil suit, I have never seen anything under a criminal charge under the party name that differs from the person that I'm looking up. So for example, if it lists the father and his charges, it'll list the father, and then under the charges, under party name, it'll list his name, just like you see right here. But then I find this weird anomaly in all of this that makes me go, oh, okay. So you're going to see up here the name of the person whose record we're looking up. And then it's going to list the charges right here. And then over here under the party name, it should list their name again. But for some reason on this particular record, it lists somebody else's name. It actually lists his wife's name, which is very, very unusual. Never seen that before. So when I click on the record there, and you'll see that the case number is exactly the same when I pull up the record, but for some reason under this guy's history in his records, when you click on it, it pulls up all the information on a case that has only his wife's information in the case. That is what you call an anomaly. That is what I assert is a dual arrest where they only list one party in the actual sequence of events once the arrest took place, but it lets you know that there was two parties involved in that arrest, but one wasn't listed in the case information. So the father of one of the victims in this atrocity has a major anomaly as it relates to his wife's arrest. And let's dig in a little further and see if we can verify anything more as it relates to this. Now, I've been sitting on this information for a while. Found it a while back. Haven't put it out there yet because, well, everybody wants to say that I'm victim blaming and I'm putting people's lives in danger. Well, let me tell you this. The people that say that have zero regard for the life of Bryan Kohberger, because the things that I'm discussing, I assure you in this video, are going to be undeniable when I get done. And with it being undeniable, then me not showing it is putting somebody's life in danger. And that somebody is one Bryan Kohberger, who's sitting in jail for a crime he didn't commit, with a motive being made up by mainstream media that's the most ludicrous thing you can possibly imagine, but it is working to brainwash the masses. And yet I've got people telling me that I need to stop what I'm doing because I'm going to put people's lives in danger. Give me a break. If you don't expose the truth, then you're going to let an atrocity happen. Don't dare get on these airwaves and discuss how people are possibly innocent and then try to stifle the truth. In the entire process in this thing, the truth has been stifled. It's not going to be stifled for me anymore. So where are these two now? That should really be the question on everybody's mind, because we really never see them. In fact, we've never seen her, I don't believe, and we've only seen him in a couple of obscure interviews and maybe a post for a GoFundMe here and there. But, I mean, where are they? What do they do? Well, I dove into it, and I tried to figure it out. And you know what? They both work for a firm called Starplex CMS. Now, as I just showed you, they are both multiple felons. I mean, they have more felonies than Capone. Yet he works as a security officer at Starplex, and she works crowd control at Starplex. Now, what do those positions really entail? Security and crowd control at Starplex. Let's see, uniformed security at Starplex. Our certified unarmed private security guards provide public safety and security functions beyond the scope of crowd management. They have strong collaborations with local law enforcement. Oh, really? And are certified by the respective states for parking and traffic control. Oh, certified, huh? Along with strong collaborations with local law enforcement. Wow, these are some highly trained individuals. Oh, look, they're highly trained in everything from prevention to incident reports. We welcome both long-term security contracts and special assignments. So a uniformed security guard is basically a security specialist, and they work with local law enforcement, and they're certified by the state. Man, that sounds like a real security position. How in the heck is a multiple felon getting a real security position? We'll figure that out in a minute. But first, let's see what a crowd management person does at Starplex CMS. Now, we know how crowd behavior has changed over the last 30 years, and we know how quickly it can change an event in only a few minutes. We focus on prevention through planning, and in the event of a disturbance, our highly trained staff can handle rushing crowds, rules and regulations enforcement, public safety inspections, alcohol enforcement, front of stage mosh pit techniques, guest evictions, and report writing. That sounds like a full-fledged security guard slash bouncer slash special agent in a way, doesn't it? I mean, my goodness, they're enforcing alcohol guidelines. They do public safety inspections. They're doing guest evictions. I mean, they're writing reports. You need to be a pretty credible person to be able to do this, I would imagine. So how in the heck is a lifelong felon able to obtain a position such as this? It is astounding to me. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong, and they're not really a security company. I mean, let's see, CMS, Protect the Fun. Matt, you see Matt here, he is 5,200 ounces of prevention. Prevention is always cheaper than a cure. No, I would say that they're advertising that they are absolutely security. I mean, they're pretty much describing Matt here as 5,200 ounces of a bouncer type security guard. That's exactly what it is. Well, maybe this company is just a little small company that no, actually they're quite large. You can see they have offices in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Alaska. They cover all of the same states that all the drug trafficking organizations like to cover. It's weird. But they're not a trafficking organization. They're a legit company. In fact, they're the largest crowd management company in the Northwest. So I guess my question is, I mean, why are they hiring lifelong criminals to be security? Is that part of their policy? Oh, no, wait a minute. No, you can see by applying with Starplex CMS, you do agree to participate in a criminal history verification. Yeah, see, it turns out they do background checks for criminal history to make sure that they don't hire the wrong people. So what has happened here? How did they bypass all of the security measures? It took a lot of looking and digging to understand how they were able to do it. But then I finally found out that they have a secret contract with Washington State. Yeah, you can see it's because it's a job that is set up by law enforcement to assist in the protection and management of their confidential informants. And you can see the quote is, yes, CMS has a policy that confidential informants are not law enforcement officers and cannot perform certain tasks, but confidential informants are not allowed to make arrests, conduct searches and seizures, and carry a weapon. So, now I want you to think about this for a second before I move forward, because it's not saying, felons or people with prior criminal history cannot work as law enforcement officers and perform certain tasks. No, it's saying that CMS has a policy that confidential informants, CIs, they're not law enforcement officers. They can't perform certain tasks for them. Confidential informants are not allowed to make arrests, conduct searches and seizures, or carry a weapon. That's when they're, performing their duties as a security officer for this company. But yes, they have a policy with the Washington state to employ their confidential informants so that they can manage them, keep them working, and keep their eyes on them, and keep them protected because they are a security firm. Now, motive number 2, I've done so much reporting on it over the last ever how long it's been that I don't have to do too much more on it. However, I would be remiss if I didn't point out this glaring fact that will slap you right in the face, just like it should. About a month ago, maybe just a little bit more, in fact, it was November 4th, I put out a video because I was curious. Where was the mama and my confidential informant in the case spending their time incarcerated? Was it in general population where the Featherwoods could get at them, or were they in some type of protective custody? Located my confidential informant in a protective custody block called H Block in the middle of the minimum security penitentiary there in Ada County. And then I located the mama in a very minimum security rehab facility. And I pulled up the prison record and was trying to determine when they were going to release her, now that I pointed out where she was and that she was in minimum security protection. And you know what? It listed on there that she would be eligible to be released from her rider at the end of January 2025, be eligible for a full parole in 2026. And I estimated that, she would probably be out at the end of January when that rider was up. Little did I know how much impact that video would have. Now, right here, you'll notice the thumbnail for that video that I'm referring to that I put out. And you'll see the date of it, November 4th. And then right here, you'll see where her record of incarceration was. And right there at the bottom is her end date of the rider that she was on. And that was the end of January 2025. And then above that, you'll see her parole date in 2026. So by no means was she to be released before that rider date in January of 2025. But little did I know, by putting out this information and pointing out the minimum security that she was in and all this information, some miraculous events took place. And you'll see down here that she was released from that facility less than 3 days later, over 2.5 to 3 months early, directly after I put out that video. Now, if you look at the no contact orders that were amended and extended in the court docs that Mr. Drunk Turkey couldn't figure out the initials of last night, one person you're going to see that is glaringly missing from all of the no contact orders is the mama. So if she's not bound by a no contact order and she is out and about, then there is absolutely no reason why somebody can't get a hold of her and get some statements from her, because she's not protected by the no contact order. But you can bet she is protected if they pulled her out of a facility because I made a video. Well, that'll about clear up that whole motive thing that they're trying to push out there. But, you know, they're also showing that WSU incident over and over. And the way that they're showing it on, I've seen at least 3 different stations, mainstream media too, is they show it in like 5-minute clips and they present that it looks like Bryan Kohberger was possibly the assailant. Then at the very end, in a subtle way, they say, but it's not related to the case. He's no longer a person of interest. 90% of people aren't going to watch it to the very end, and they're just going to assume that they've got another incident, and that's not Kohberger's first rodeo. So it is a mainstream media attack, I assure you. When they go on attack, I go on attack. Now, I've seen 5 or 6 videos discussing this confidential informant. I see people coming out with court docs trying to go back to, well, it's the confidential informant is the IGG. Listen here, folks. I'm going to show you in a court doc where the defense makes the statements that the IGG is not real. They had to use an IGG because they wouldn't say the real way that they got that they got to Kohberger. And they got to Kohberger because of a confidential informant that is very unreliable. And I'm going to show that. I'm going to show the entire process in video number 2 today. There's going to be no more questions about this IGG and these confidential informants. I'm going to show you who the confidential informant is. I'm going to show you why it is and how it is. And it's going to be undeniable coming to you in video number 2. But there's video number 1. If anybody has any doubts now why this thing took place, you can stop doubting and you can start trying to put the real pieces together the way that I have. But in the meantime, until video number 2 comes out, please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, your thoughts, criticisms, and until next time, Pavarotti's out.
I was an ordinary boy until I broke the rules my life destroyed.